I think women are the crucial issue. That's really the thing. It's really not politics. I mean, everybody pretends to be oriented to the community, but men are oriented in America to run the race to win the prize. The brave win the fair. We really believe that. We don't embrace the principle too closely because it's a struggle sometimes. But the best in guys believes that, the best part of people. A few quotes about women that I recall. It was Freud said after 50 years of analysis, he said, I can't determine what it is that women want. 50 years. And then Oscar Wilde said, a woman will do anything for a man she once loved except love him again. Right? Great insight. And then George Bernard Shaw said, a woman who demands equality renounces her superiority. He said that in 1903. And Nietzsche, of course, said, if women didn't have a unique anatomy which is tantalizing to men, there would be a bounty on them. A lot of you resent that, but they got even with Nietzsche. Nobody married him. At any rate, I want to give you a couple of examples tonight of where we started and where we went. You know, the political examples are easy. I mean, it's easy to say we started with Thomas Jefferson and now we got Dan Quayle. That's what a thoughtless performer would say. Those are, yeah. Fortunately, we don't do that kind of thing. But what about the other examples in society? How did we go from John Wayne and Maureen O'Hara, remember that, in about 20 movies? How do we go from that to Woody Allen and Mia Farrow? Look at the difference here. Here's a guy who's saying, please don't hit me, And how unaffected we go from Tracy and Hepburn, 7 movies together, Tracy and Hepburn, to Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan. These are all 20th century heroes. I mean, have become guys that are involved with themselves. They're in the corner. The woman chooses them, and if she's forceful enough, she goes over and tries to hug them. Did you get your hug for today? It's that kind of, pop psychology, psychobabble. And the guy says, don't hug me too tight. The scars are still there from my last relationship. They're very self-involved. It's what we used to charge women with when I was in high school. I remember that. I remember when I was going to college, and the astronauts are going up, and I said to the girl I was having dinner with, I said, gee, these guys are going, going into outer space. And she said, yes, I dated a pilot once myself. So it's that kind of yeah. Well, the era may be remembered not for spacewalking as much as men being feminized and women being forced to get a battlefield commission and take over running the boat. Women are great survivors. Some of them occasionally are social democrats. My chart is gone, but if you recall, women are occasionally social democrats. I've known women, not all, but I've known women who could be married to Che Guevara, and once they killed him, they could go back home and marry a used car dealer without skipping a beat. Yeah, you go, sure. But women didn't invent the Geneva Convention. Guys did. Women don't take any prisoners. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're saying to yourself, where do you get these ideas? Well, I got them at the movies. I think the movies are the last literature in America. Thank goodness that television keeps them, because there are a lot of cynics out there that are saying, well, it was never any good. It's not only Nixon was crooked, they were all crooked. Jefferson had slaves. These guys, they go all the way back. Moses was only in it for himself. Right? There's always those people. But it's not true. And the movies are the only documentation you have now that we've burned our books. So, well, of course we didn't, but nobody reads, so it's almost the same thing. So, wait till they stop reading TV Guide, we'll be in a lot of trouble. They were really worried when Murdoch bought TV Guide from Walter Annenberg. I know a lot of the independent cable operators I know were very worried that TV Guide would lose its literary tone. Because, Murdoch had the racing form and the Star, they're afraid, okay. Why belabor that point? Let's go to a couple of movies. We were talking about Maureen O'Hara and John Wayne. I don't know, a better way to start. Here's The Quiet Man. Now, today, people tell you they don't want to see that. That was a movie, if you recall it. I haven't seen it in some time. It's a movie about a woman pushing a guy to a point where she brutalizes him so that he'll express himself toward her. But you notice that the girl is worth winning. The girl is what's at stake. And there's never been a movie you've ever enjoyed, go back through your mental card file, in which something wasn't at stake. And on my more morose nights, I think that that's the story of America. It's like the movies. Who's going to get the girl was crucial in the movies in the 40s and 50s and 60s. So America's the girl. Who's going to get her? Guy that's capable of loving her, or any number of exploiters she meets along the way who look good and don't turn out to be too good for her. Anyway, let's proceed. 12 o'clock high. Gregory Peck is 32 here. Jay Leno is 43. Look at this.
Now, I don't have a lot of patience with this what are we fighting for stuff. We're in a war, a shooting war. We've got to fight. And some of us have got to die. I'm not trying to tell you not to be afraid. Fear is normal. But stop worrying about it and about yourselves. Stop making plans. Forget about going home. Consider yourselves already dead.
You notice, those are the guys that made it possible for us to be here now. This is a man that doesn't know anything about self-pity. If he makes you sorry for his dilemma, but he's too busy doing the job. If they made that movie today, Oliver Stone would make the colonel a guy who smokes marijuana when the troops aren't looking. So they're trying very seriously to tell you that nobody's any better than the worst parts of you, so that you won't aspire to anything. Jimmy Carter himself once told me that the reason he decided to run for president, he said he always respected presidents. He loved Roosevelt and he loved Kennedy, but then he said he met George McGovern when he was running. And he said, I realized a guy like me could run. Boy, I don't know. You got to watch that democracy. It gets out of hand sometimes. Actually, it isn't democracy. It's egalitarianism. The egalitarian has landed. Anyway, let's proceed. Now, here's a movie from 1939, and these are the movies we believe in. This is really my Bible. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
Hello, nosy. Who let you in here?
Why aren't you out chasing ambulance?
That guy Smith's punching everybody he meets. I just got away from him. Oh, Tarzan! Boys, meet Senator Smith.
You act like a man with something on your mind.
Why don't you tell the people the truth for a change?
Oh, the truth. The man wants the truth.
The man wants the truth.
What is the truth, said jesting pilot, and would not stay for an answer.
How do you want it, Senator? Dished out or in a bottle?
The people of this country pick up their papers, and what do they read?
Well, this morning they read that an incompetent clown had arrived in Washington, parading like a member of the Senate.
No.
You thought as much about being honest as you do about being smart.
Honest? Why, we're the only ones who can afford to be honest in what we tell the voters. We don't have to be re-elected like politicians.
Yeah. See, everybody's got a reason for their cynicism. He doesn't want to be thought of as a cynic, so what he says is, I'm shrewder than Senator Smith, who's only an idealist, is ready to go down with the ship. Jimmy Stewart is attacking the press in 1939. Outside of Jack Parr, I never knew anyone who had the courage to take them on. Eugene McCarthy once said that the press in Washington should be limited to a 4-year term. And yeah, he might have been onto something there. And this movie, it's interesting. This is, of course, Frank Capra, who left us just a couple of weeks ago. Capra is interesting. Capra was a social democrat. The guys that wrote the movies were all communists, and the actors like Thomas Mitchell and Jack Carson and Walter Brennan, the whole team he had, Edward Arnold and Jimmy Stewart, were all on the right. And yet they all got together because they all believed that America was a place that had been created by the Founding Fathers, so you'd have a place to be free. It was more than an abstract idea. You could practice freedom, and who knows what you could come up with. Anyway, let's proceed.
In a minute?
This is the only picture Marlon Brando ever directed.
Sure, kid. You're dying to get me hung, ain't you?
No, kid. You've been trying to get yourself hung for the past 10 years, and this time I think you're going to make it. You should have quit when you were ahead.
Like you, huh?
Like me.
You're a one-eyed jack around here, Dad. I've seen the other side of your face.
It's a movie basically about social hypocrisy. Both these men started as bank robbers, but one decided, Malden, to get a white collar, put a Bible under his arm, and run for public office. He didn't find that too much of a stretch, by the way. And Brando knows who he is, and he has to go out of his way to kill the one person who can look at him and see the emperor with no clothes, knows who he is. In other words, he represents his conscience. And he doesn't particularly want to have a conscience. The problem, of course, the picture stresses, is that when you try to get the fortunes of the moon and you only have to sacrifice your conscience, sometimes it's lethal. You don't survive that sacrifice. And finally, let's look again at Katharine Hepburn and Spencer Tracy.
He frightened me.
I can imagine.
Why, I called you.
Well, you done the right thing, kid.
I mean, what would I have did if you hadn't been around? Done.
I figure you can take care of yourself.
No, I can't.
Yeah, I bet you could even lick me.
No, I couldn't.
Oh, sure, I think so.
No, I couldn't. I need someone to look after me.
What about me?
Why not?
Well, I don't know if I can lick you or you can lick me, but I'll tell you one thing I do know.
What?
Together, we can lick them all.
You bet.
It's, somehow you don't seem to... An upper cruster like you and my kind of type that can't even speak left-handed English yet. The whole gizmo, it's hard to believe.
Not hard for me to believe.
I think so.
I know so.
Okay, kid. You got yourself a deal.
The network doesn't run pictures like that anymore. They're too busy doing talk shows or reality shows, America's Least Wanted. You see what happened here? You see the woman taking a hand and saying that life is extended. You know, they talk about empowering women. You hear all these stereotypes in society. You see these endless talk shows with Ronald Reagan's son, Oprah Winfrey, and Phil Donahue, and they're talking about empowering women. Do you know any women more powerful than them? Do you know anybody more worthwhile falling in love with? And you know, I want to leave you with one quote tonight from one of our many writers on the show, Sigmund Freud. He had not a bad guy, he only charged $20 an hour. And he threw you out after a while. He didn't keep you there for the endless therapy. Freud said he had a patient who came to see him, and the guy said, I've been a bachelor all my life, but I can see a marriage. I can see Christmas. I can see my kids and my wife around the tree. I can see it in detail. So Freud said, well, great. And the guy said, well, how? I must be going mad because how can I be nostalgic for something I've never experienced? And Freud said, because that's the stuff that dreams are made of. Amy?
When you were growing up,
Yeah.
was it a Frank Capra America?
Well, if there wasn't, it certainly appealed to me. The guys that taught me to write all knew how to put it in 3 acts. All the guys that helped me make a living. And those guys that worked for Capra, like Robert Riskin and Ring Lardner, those guys, they knew how to take a guy and turn him around. Either a girl turn him around or an ideal. They knew how to do that. But I think after Steve McQueen, we don't see any people like that. We had a movie series here at the theater, and I would explain the movies, mostly to show them why they were effective. But that kind of writer, maybe Al Sargent now, that kind of writer, you know. But when I'd be up at Hefner's house, he had a Casablanca night, you know, where he wore a white tuxedo, and he had a Citizen Kane night. They had no idea what Wells was doing. Wells and John Houseman were in the Communist Party. They were really, you know, brandishing the pitchforks. Nobody wants to be caught with it now. They believe in somebody until they start sliding. And of course, we know that firsthand. I mean, not that you slid, but they ordained me as crazy and without ability, and it was a lie. And I guess I'm here to prove it with some scars, some visible scars. I'm disappointed a little bit, I'll admit that.
Disappointed in whom?
I'm disappointed in the women. In other words,
elaborate.
In my script, they come and say to you, hang on, I'll be there soon, you know? But they let themselves down. You see, just before I came to meet you, I was watching A Quiet Man. And look at that, by the numbers. Yeah. I mean, by the numbers. The woman doesn't really respect the guy till she turns him into a barbarian. And I was reminded of it again, you know.
Why does the woman need to transform the man into a barbarian before she respects him?
Conditioned by her parents, probably. She doesn't think a poet is going to work all the time. But they dream of it. That was the whole point of psychoanalysis originally, was that what they deny to you face to face, they dream about at night. And they hated him for suggesting that. And Freud has a great line, you know, when Adler turns against him, his disciple, yeah. They say, why has he turned against you if you're the father of all his ideas? He said, he can't forgive me for all I've done for him. It's a real kind of Jewish joke. Yeah. Old Jewish joke, not new Jewish joke. The new guys, well, just go on a comedy club. I mean.
Did Ilsa secretly want to go off with Bogey?
Oh, yeah.
Instead of getting on the plane with Victor
Well,
Laszlo?
Woody Allen grew up taking Diane Keaton to see Bogey at the Baronet on 3rd Avenue.
Yes.
He doesn't make any pictures with guys like Bogey. Bogey's great. He shows doubt about the entire situation. You can talk to him about your doubt. You won't alienate him. But he doesn't make any pictures like that. You like Bogey because he was a little guy, and he's a little guy.
The women. You are an extraordinarily romantic man. You speak about being somewhere listening to Glenn Miller music and reading the letters.
Yeah.
From afar.
It's a lot of pressure for women to live up to that.
Why?
Well, they like to think of themselves as free agents, flexible to adjust to whatever the current trauma is, practical. But the good ones know you've got them on the right track. In A Quiet Man, when he stands up and burns her dowry and takes on McLaughlin, she says, the dinner will be ready when you get home. She likes that. He's become a savage. They would like to think they have an effect on you because of your high regard for them. Now, there's distortions to that, too. There's a Jewish girl saying, why can't you write a bad movie? We need the money this month, you know? And that's what breaks your heart. When they stop being intriguing. And you know when they're not intriguing, they say things like, that's not reality. But they fall in love with you because you're in love with the lack of reality. I know that. It wasn't just that I was famous.
They fall in love with you because of your lack
of reality.
Of reality.
Yeah.
Elaborate on that just a little.
You're out there, you know. But then their mother's voice gets in the other ear, and they settle. And you know, when Robin met Susan, I was around when he met her and courted her, and I went to the wedding. And I took my ex-wife there, hoping it would be catching. And it was really exciting. A great girl, and they really loved each other. And of course, a lot of subsequent tragedy. But he dreamed in a way the guys around him do not.
How so?
Well, Billy Crystal doesn't dream that way. Whoopi Goldberg doesn't dream that way. They're pretend outlaws. You know, they got a lot of social resentment for whatever personal reasons they have. I don't think it's ever too late for love. I have an example around me now, not for me, but for a friend. People are open to that. I don't think they can find it. I think they're afraid to admit it. It's a vulnerability.
You piqued my curiosity.
Yeah.
Don't mention the name of your friend. But tell me what's going on.
Don't mention the name?
Don't mention, because you said you're going through that right now with a friend.
Yeah.
Don't mention the friend's name.
Oh, okay.
But give me an idea of what's going on.
Well, he's getting on in life, and it's all been a flop up to now. But he's met somebody that's extraordinary. And all he has to do is leave the door ajar, and he can still be part of the human race. And he's an outstanding guy. And that encourages me. He isn't speaking Esperanto out there. See, if women would let themselves, I think they're open to it. But they had fathers too. They're scared. Or maybe a couple of bad marriages. And then you got the lawyers in there who are going to satisfy themselves. But they don't satisfy anybody. This is expensive land up here.
Yeah.
It's full of divorcees.
Yeah.
You know.
Your friend who's leaving the door ajar.
Yeah.
Does that mean that he's allowing a part of himself to be loved?
He's what?
Does that mean he is allowing a part of himself to be loved?
Yeah. In other words, there's a mystique about this woman who got through those sheets of ice. And that really encourages me. That's why if I made a movie, I'd make a movie about that. And I have a belief that it would get through. I don't think Woody would, but I would. And not because I want to squander their money at Sony. I think it would work. I think people would stand in line to see a dream.